Tiger Muay Thai, the Jungle Factory. Tiger Muay Thai sits in the tropical chaos of Phuket, Thailand, where the humidity hits you like a wet blanket and the training hits you like a freight train. This isn't some fancy American gym with air conditioning and smoothie bars. This is a sweaty, authentic Muay Thai camp where champions get forged in conditions that would make most Western fighters cry for their mommies. Valentina Shevchenko arrived at Tiger Muay Thai as an already accomplished striker, but the Kyrgyzstani assassin knew she needed something more to dominate the UFC's flyweight division. Born in Kyrgyzstan but raised in Peru, Shevchenko had been competing in Muay Thai since childhood, collecting multiple world championships before transitioning to MMA. But she understood that Western Muay Thai training, no matter how elite, couldn't replicate the authentic brutality of traditional Thai camps. Shevchenko didn't just visit Tiger Muay Thai for a few weeks like most foreign fighters. She practically lived there for months at a time, completely immersing herself in the Thai training methodology. She'd wake up at 5 a.m. for road work along Phuket's beaches, then spend the morning drilling traditional techniques with legendary Thai trainers who'd forgotten more about Muay Thai than most fighters would ever learn. The camp operates like a military boot camp designed by people who genuinely enjoy watching others suffer. Morning runs on the beach at dawn, followed by technical training that lasts for hours, then afternoon sessions that break down fighters mentally and physically. The Thai trainers don't speak much English, but they communicate perfectly through pain and repetition. What separated Shevchenko from other visiting fighters was her complete surrender to the Thai way of training. While most Westerners would complain about the brutal conditions or try to modify the training to their preferences, Shevchenko embraced every aspect of the torture. She learned to throw traditional elbow combinations while exhausted, perfected her clinch work against opponents who'd been doing it since they could walk, and developed the kind of mental toughness that only comes from voluntary suffering. The training philosophy was simple: break fighters down completely, then rebuild them stronger. Shevchenko would spend months at a time living in basic accommodations, eating simple Thai food, and training twice daily in brutal humidity that would melt most people's motivation within hours. The result was the most complete striker in women's MMA history, with clinch work and elbow techniques that looked like they'd been downloaded directly from Muay Thai's golden age. Shevchenko's UFC dominance can be traced directly back to those suffocating training sessions in Thailand. Her legendary head kick knockout of Jessica I, her suffocating clinch control, and her ability to remain calm under pressure all got refined in an environment where weakness wasn't tolerated and excuses didn't exist. Dagestani high-altitude camps, the Mountain Laboratory. Halfway around the world from Thailand's tropical brutality, the mountains of Dagestan created the most dominant wrestling lineage in combat sports history through completely different but equally unforgiving methods. This isn't just a gym, it's an entire culture where wrestling isn't a sport. It's a survival skill passed down through generations of mountain people who treat combat like most people treat breathing. Khabib Nurmagomedov represents the perfect product of this mountain forge. Born into a wrestling family in the village of Shildi, Khabib was shaped by the harsh Caucasus environment from his earliest memories. His father, Abdulmanap, wasn't just a coach, he was a philosopher of combat who understood that true champions needed to be molded by conditions that exceeded anything they'd face in competition. The high-altitude environment naturally builds cardiovascular conditioning that makes sea-level competition feel like recreational activities. When you've been wrestling at 5,000 feet above sea level, fighting in Las Vegas feels like performing with superhuman lung capacity. But the altitude was just one element of a comprehensive system designed to create unbreakable fighters. Khabib's daily routine included wrestling sessions on concrete floors, conditioning work that would violate every safety protocol in American gyms, and mental preparation that bordered on meditation. The famous videos of young Khabib wrestling a bear weren't publicity stunts. They were genuine training methods in a culture that viewed extreme challenges as normal preparation for life. While Khabib was establishing his legendary undefeated record in the UFC, another mountain-forged warrior was following the same brutal path to greatness. Islam Makhachev, Khabib's childhood friend and training partner, represents the evolution of Dagestani methodology. Where Khabib was pure, overwhelming pressure, Islam combined that same suffocating wrestling with more diverse striking and submission skills. Makhachev's journey through the Dagestani system was equally demanding, but slightly more modernized. He benefited from Khabib's early UFC success, which brought better training equipment and more diverse training partners to their mountain compound. But the core philosophy remained unchanged. Break yourself down daily so that no opponent can break you down when it matters. When Khabib built his advanced training compound in Sildi after retiring, he wasn't abandoning the old methods. He was upgrading them with modern equipment while maintaining the same psychological approach that had created generations of unbeatable wrestlers. Islam became the primary beneficiary of this evolution, combining traditional Dagestani toughness with more technical refinement. The mental conditioning was even more important than the physical advantages. Fighters who'd been broken down daily in the mountains for years couldn't be intimidated by opponents who'd trained in climate-controlled facilities their entire careers. Islam's calm demeanor during his title fight with Charles Oliveira was pure Dagestani preparation. He'd been in worse situations during regular training sessions. Extreme Couture, the Vegas war machine. From the ancient mountains of Dagestan to the neon-lit desert of Las Vegas, Extreme Couture represents a completely different approach to creating champions. Operating out of a business park off the Las Vegas Strip, this unassuming warehouse became the headquarters for some of the most devastating fighters in UFC history through Randy Couturière's vision of systematic violence. Francis Ngannou's transformation at Extreme Couture remains one of the most dramatic evolutions in MMA history. The Cameroonian heavyweight arrived in Las Vegas as a raw athletic specimen with devastating power but limited technical skills. His early UFC fights showed flashes of terrifying potential mixed with fundamental gaps that elite competition would exploit. Ngannou's journey to Extreme Couture wasn't just about finding better training, it was about learning how to channel his natural explosiveness into fight-ending techniques. The gym's approach to heavyweight training was perfect for someone with Ngannou's physical gifts. They didn't try to completely remake him. They refined his strengths while addressing his most glaring weaknesses. The daily grind at Extreme Couture included sparring sessions that looked more like controlled warfare than athletic preparation. Ngannou learned to use his reach advantage more effectively, developed better takedown defense, and most importantly, learned how to pace himself over 5 rounds instead of exploding in the first few minutes. Building on Ngannou's success, another international fighter found his path to championship glory through Extreme Couture's systematic approach. Jiří Procházka brought his unorthodox Czech style to the Vegas gym and found the perfect environment to refine his chaotic brilliance without losing his unique identity. Procházka's background in Japanese MMA had given him a striking style that looked almost artistic in its creativity, but American competition required more systematic preparation. At Extreme Couture, he learned to blend his natural unpredictability with more fundamental boxing and wrestling skills. The gym specialized in adapting their methods to each fighter's strengths rather than forcing everyone into the same mold. Procházka's training included traditional boxing drills to tighten up his defense, wrestling sessions to improve his takedown defense, and most importantly, sparring with partners who could match his intensity without trying to change his fundamental approach. Complementing these international stars, Sean Strickland's evolution at Extreme Couture showed how the gym could take naturally talented but mentally scattered American fighters and turn them into focused killers. Strickland's journey was less about learning new techniques and more about developing the mental discipline to apply his skills systematically. Strickland's pressure fighting style and psychological warfare got refined through countless hard sparring sessions with elite competition. The gym's approach to mental conditioning taught him to channel his natural aggression into strategic advantages rather than emotional outbursts that could be exploited by intelligent opponents. Serra-Longo Fight Team, the Upset Factory. While Las Vegas gyms attracted international stars with flashy training facilities, Serra-Longo Fight Team proved that champions could be forged in the most unlikely environments. Operating out of a Long Island strip mall that looks like it should house a dry cleaner, this gym became the most notorious upset factory in MMA history through pure technical excellence. Matt Serra's shocking knockout of Georges St-Pierre remains the biggest betting upset in UFC title fight history, and it perfectly exemplified everything the gym represented. Serra wasn't supposed to win. He was shorter, less athletic, and theoretically outclassed in every measurable category. But Serra-Longo understood something other gyms missed. Technique and timing can overcome every physical advantage if applied correctly. Serra's preparation for the GSP fight was obsessively detailed. They studied every second of GSP's previous fights, identifying specific moments where the Canadian champion was vulnerable to counters. The knockout didn't happen by accident, it was the result of hundreds of hours practicing the exact combination that would eventually end the fight. Following in Serra's footsteps, Chris Weidman's destruction of Anderson Silva represented the evolution of the gym's upset methodology. Weidman came to Serra-Longo as a talented wrestler with good hands, but transforming him into a middleweight champion required systematic technical development that most gyms couldn't provide. Weidman's training focused on exploiting Silva's specific defensive tendencies. They knew Silva liked to lean back from punches with his hands down, so they practiced the exact timing needed to catch him during those defensive movements. The famous knockout came from Weidman's ability to recognize and exploit a split-second opening that most fighters would never see. Continuing the gym's tradition of systematic improvement, Aljamain Sterling and Merab Dvalishvili represent the modern era of Serra-Longo excellence. Both fighters embody the gym's philosophy of overwhelming opponents through superior preparation rather than superior athleticism. Sterling's path to the bantamweight title was built on the same methodical approach that had created previous champions. His grappling skills were refined through analysis of every top bantamweight's defensive tendencies, allowing him to find submission opportunities that other grapplers missed. Meanwhile, Dvalishvili's legendary cardio and pressure fighting style were developed through training methods that would break most fighters mentally. His ability to maintain an impossible pace for 5 rounds came from daily preparation that exceeded the demands of actual competition. Style MMA, the blue-collar basement. From Long Island's strip mall success to Cleveland's blue-collar authenticity, Style MMA represents everything beautiful about American working-class fight culture. This gym forged Stipe Miocic into the greatest heavyweight champion in UFC history through methods that looked more like construction work than athletic training. Miocic's journey to strong style wasn't driven by dreams of fame or fortune. It was pure Ohio work ethic applied to combat sports. The Croatian-American heavyweight worked as a firefighter while pursuing his fighting career, bringing the same professional dedication to both occupations. His approach to training reflected his background: show up, work hard, improve systematically, and never make excuses. The gym's philosophy aligned perfectly with Miocic's mentality. They weren't interested in creating social media stars or marketable personalities. They specialized in developing fighters who could perform under pressure through unglamorous preparation that prioritized substance over style. Miocic's heavyweight title reign was built on fundamentals perfected through thousands of repetitions in an environment that valued effectiveness over entertainment. His boxing looked simple because it was simple, perfectly executed basics applied with championship-level timing and precision. The training partners at Strong Style understood that making the champion better made everyone better. Sparring sessions were competitive but constructive, with fighters pushing each other without the ego conflicts that destroy other training environments. Miocic's success elevated the entire gym's reputation and attracted better training partners, creating a positive feedback loop. Tristar Gym, the Montreal laboratory. Moving north from Cleveland's blue-collar approach, Tristar Gym in Montreal operated like a scientific laboratory where fighting was studied, analyzed, and perfected through methodical preparation that bordered on obsessive. The Canadian approach to martial arts emphasized intellectual analysis alongside physical preparation. Georges St-Pierre didn't just train at Tristar, he helped create a culture of technical excellence that influenced an entire generation of fighters. GSP's background was diverse. He'd trained in karate, wrestling, and Brazilian jiu-jitsu before finding his home at Tristar. But it was Firas Zahabi's systematic coaching that transformed him from a talented prospect into the most dominant welterweight champion in UFC history. Zahabi's coaching philosophy was revolutionary in its approach to fighter development. Instead of relying on traditional methods or emotional intensity, they treated fighting like engineering. Every technique could be broken down, analyzed, and improved through systematic study. GSP's legendary preparation for fights included detailed analysis of opponents that went beyond watching fight footage. They studied psychological profiles, technical tendencies, and even personal habits that might affect performance. The goal was to enter every fight with solutions to problems before they arose. The gym's cold, analytical environment was perfect for fighters who wanted to maximize their potential through intelligent preparation rather than just hard work. They understood that training smarter was more important than training harder, especially for fighters like GSP who were already operating at elite physical levels. Chute Boxe, the Brazilian furnace. Crossing from Montreal's cerebral approach to Brazil's emotional intensity, Chute Boxe operated like a sauna designed by people who thought regular saunas weren't suffocating enough. This legendary gym in Curitiba became synonymous with the most violent and exciting fighters in MMA history. Wanderlei Silva embodied everything terrifying about Chute Boxe's training methodology. The Brazilian midfielder wasn't just aggressive, he was systematically violent in ways that suggested his training had prepared him for actual warfare rather than athletic competition. His legendary Pride FC career was built on an ability to maintain devastating pace while absorbing punishment that would break most fighters. Silva's training at Chute Boxe included sparring sessions that bordered on actual fights. The gym's philosophy was that if you could survive their training, no opponent could break you mentally or physically. This approach created fighters who peaked under pressure because their daily preparation exceeded the stress of actual competition. Following Silva's path through the Chute Boxe system, Shogun Rua represented the evolution of their training methods. Where Silva was pure aggression, Shogun combined that same intensity with more technical sophistication and tactical awareness. Rua's early dominance in Pride was pure Chute Boxe methodology, overwhelming aggression combined with technical skills refined through combat that bordered on warfare. His legendary victories over elite light heavyweights came from an ability to break opponents mentally through sustained violence that felt more personal than professional. Another product of Chute Boxe's violent laboratory, Anderson Silva's early development laid the foundation for his later middleweight dominance. Though Silva would later refine his style through other training environments, his fundamental understanding of striking distance and timing came from Chute Boxe's pressure cooker atmosphere. Silva's time at Chute Boxe taught him how to maintain composure while creating chaos for opponents. The gym specialized in fighters who could think clearly while inflicting maximum damage, a combination that served Silva throughout his legendary UFC career. Nova União, the small but ferocious laboratory. From Brazil's chaotic violence to its technical precision, Nova União proved that size doesn't matter when it comes to creating champions. This small Rio de Janeiro gym produced Jose Aldo through methods that emphasized technical perfection over volume training. Aldo's journey to Nova União began in the favelas of Manaus, where his childhood was marked by poverty and limited opportunities. His introduction to martial arts came through necessity rather than choice. Training provided structure and hope in an environment where both were scarce. Andre Pederneiras recognized Aldo's potential early and created a development plan that would transform a talented but raw teenager into the greatest featherweight champion in MMA history. The gym was small enough that coaches could provide individual attention to each fighter, ensuring that technical flaws got corrected before they became ingrained habits. Aldo's legendary leg kicks weren't just powerful, they were perfectly timed weapons that could end fights or systematically break down opponents over 5 rounds. His defensive wrestling was equally refined, allowing him to stuff takedowns from elite grapplers while maintaining perfect position for counters. The gym's philosophy was built around the idea that perfect practice creates perfect performance. Aldo spent years refining the same techniques until they became automatic responses rather than conscious decisions. This approach created a fighter who could perform at championship level even when hurt or tired. SBG Ireland, the Dublin Dream Factory. From Rio's technical perfection to Dublin's raw ambition, SBG Ireland operated out of a rain-soaked warehouse that looked like the last place you'd expect to find a future 2-division UFC champion. Instead, it became the headquarters for the most meteoric rise in combat sports history. Conor McGregor's transformation at SBG Ireland was as much about psychological development as physical preparation. John Kavanagh recognized that McGregor's natural charisma and confidence could be channeled into systematic destruction of elite competition if properly focused. McGregor's background in boxing provided the foundation for his striking, but his transition to MMA required complete reconstruction of his fighting approach. At SBG Ireland, they developed training methods that maximized his natural gifts while addressing the grappling deficiencies that would have limited his UFC success. The gym's approach emphasized mental conditioning alongside physical preparation. McGregor's legendary confidence wasn't just personality, it was the result of systematic success in training environments that replicated the pressure of championship competition. His famous left hand was refined through thousands of repetitions focused on timing and precision rather than just power. The gym understood that effectiveness mattered more than style points, developing McGregor's ability to find the perfect moment to end fights with single strikes. City Kickboxing, the Kiwi Sanctuary. Finally, on the other side of the world from Ireland's ambition, City Kickboxing in Auckland proved that location doesn't determine destiny. This strip mall gym became the headquarters for multiple UFC champions through Eugene Behrman's systematic approach to fighter development. Israel Adesanya arrived at City Kickboxing as an accomplished kickboxer, but needed to develop the complete skill set required for UFC championship success. His striking was already elite, but his grappling and wrestling required systematic improvement to compete with the best middleweights in the world. Bearman's coaching philosophy emphasized intelligent adaptation rather than traditional methods. They studied Adesanya's natural movement patterns and developed training methods that enhanced his strengths while addressing specific weaknesses through targeted preparation. Running parallel to Adesanya's development, Alexander Volkanovski represented a completely different application of the same coaching philosophy. Where Adesanya was tall and rangy, Volkanovski was compact and powerful, requiring entirely different strategic approaches. Volkanovski's transformation from rugby player to featherweight champion was pure city kickboxing methodology. Systematic technical development combined with intelligent game planning that maximized every physical advantage while minimizing weaknesses. The gym's success came from understanding that modern MMA required coaches who could adapt their methods to different fighting styles rather than forcing all fighters into the same template. Each champion was developed according to their individual strengths rather than a one-size-fits-all approach. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to start posting almost every day. Thanks. Anyways, the New Zealand approach emphasized intelligent training over volume training, understanding that systematic improvement was more important than exhausting preparation that left fighters depleted rather than enhanced.